everyone, it's Leanne. Welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. This was a viewer request to do this video, so I'm going to show you how to print using Procreate. I have some cards on my Etsy shop and I make my cards using Procreate. And so normally what I do is when I print them, I throw them in Illustrator, I put a back on them so that I can print both sides and then fold them in the middle when they're cut out. But I'm going to show you how to do that only if you have Procreate on the iPad. So let's get started. So I'm going to use this card here that I made. This card is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 tall. That's how much, that's in inches, that's how much or what size I make all my cards. And so that's a standard, I guess, invitation size. So normally what I would do is once I have my artwork done at this size, this 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, I would save this as a PNG. I would bring it into Illustrator, where then I would put one side as the art that I've exported, and then at the exact same size I would make another panel to the left for the folded part of the card. I would print that as a single rectangle and cut it out, and then crease it in the middle to create my card. So now I'm going to show you how to do that just using Procreate, no Illustrator, any other programs. So this is the finished card. I'm going to export it and save it as a PNG. I save it as a PNG because it does not lose any quality. There's no compression. It comes out exactly as you see it in the created art. So I go to the wrench icon. Under Actions, under Share, I choose PNG, and it exports. When it comes up, I choose Save Image, and it will be saved to my camera roll. I want to go back out into the gallery and create a new artboard, and I want this one to be an 8 1/2 by 11. So I want this to be printable size. If I'm going to throw this through my printer deals with 8 1/2 by 11 paper. So that's the size I want this to be. I'm going to spin this because I do have a horizontal card. Now I want to bring in the image that I made. So if you go back under the wrench icon, the very first one, and you go to the first action called Add, I'm going to do Insert a Photo, which is the second option. In my camera roll, I'm going to find the saved image. It'll be the last one, and choose it. I'm going to let that come in at the exact size. I don't want to resize it from here. I'm going to move it over to the side so that I can duplicate it on the left at the same size and make that folded card. Now that we have the card over here, what we want to do is create the equal size of that card over here as an outline so that when we print this, we can cut it out as a full rectangle. This would be the back of our card and this would be the front. We can fold it and have a completed card. Now, there isn't an elegant way to draw a rectangle at an exact size in Procreate. There are Snap To tools that will keep your lines straight. You could fill in an object, but really what we want to do is just make sure we measure that width. So what I'm going to do, this is one of probably many ways you could do this. If I were to do this going forward, I would set up my template using this file or this project, and I would keep this and then just replace this image each time I wanted to print a card. So the way I'm going to do this and achieve that left-hand side of the card is I'm going to duplicate my first layer, which now has the exact same artwork on it. I'm going to come over here and grab the arrow tool, and I want to move this exactly. Actually, what we're going to do, so I want to try and get this as close as possible. I'm going to turn off the arrow. I'm going to zoom in so I can see what's going on and try to match up these corners. There's probably a snap method, but I'm going to do it this way. So now that I have my layer duplicated, I have it over to the left. I want to fill this in and create an outline to show a grid or a guideline that I can cut with my card. So what I want to do is with this left side layer, I'm going to create a new layer over top. I'm going to tap on the little thumbnail for that layer. It's an empty layer at this point. I'm going to make it a clipping mask. I'm going to go under the brushes. Under spray paints, I'm choosing ultrafine nozzle, and I'm just bumping it up to the largest size possible. I'm going to make a light gray selection for my color. I want something that when it prints, I'm going to be able to see it, but if I cut off the line, and I'm not perfect with cutting, it's not going to have some big, bold black line for my outline. So I'm just going to paint over this using that clipping mask layer. It's going to keep the confines of the art right in that square. So now I have the back of my card. At this point, you could do something creative if you wanted to do a colored backing, maybe to match your artwork, and you could put your name on the bottom, kind of like a Hallmark card. But for this point, for this example, I just want to make this card white with an outline. So we're faking it a little bit. So now I want to go and create a duplicate of this finalized shape. I'm going to merge these two layers. So if you tap on this layer and you select merge down, it's going to merge that into just this shape. So we have no more clipping masks. It's its own square. It's a rectangle that's the exact size of the other side of our card, and it's a single shape. I'm going to duplicate that. It's going to put a layer above. I'm going to go back into my color palette, and I'm going to select white, which is up in this corner. And then I'm going to take my finger and drag this into this shape. And so it looks like it's gone, but it's there. So now I want to transform that shape and just bring it in a little bit on the left, a little bit on the top and bottom, just to show a little bit of that gray outline so that I have a guide to cut with. I'm going to select the arrow icon at the top. And at the bottom, I want to make some specific settings that will allow me to change this. I'm going to go to distort because I don't want to keep any ratio or perspective with this. I want to be able to change each side. So I'm going to start with the left side, and I'm going to drag this point in just a little bit to show a little bit of that edge. I'm going to do the same at the bottom, just so there's a little bit of gray peeking through. It doesn't need to be a lot. And I'm going to do the same at the top. Just a small amount. I'm going to click the arrow again to release that mask, and now you can see I kind of have an outline. There is something going on here, so I'm going to fix that. But otherwise, we have the other side of our card, and we can use that as a guide when we cut. Now, right now, these two layers are on top of the artwork. If you look at the layer stack, the artwork came in first, and then we have the gray behind the white. So I just want to cover up some of that edge there. I'm going to bring my art layer to the top so that anything that happens underneath can happen underneath, but the art is never disturbed. So I'm going to hold on this until it gets larger, and then I'm going to drag it up to the top of my layers palette. I'm going to go back down onto this white layer. I'm going to pick a paintbrush that's more sensible for this change. I'm going to go under Studio Pen. That's one of my favorites. And I'm going to make the size a little bit smaller. I just want to clean up this gray line. I don't want to see that because this part of my card is going to be folded. It's not going to be cut away, and I don't want that showing on my final artwork. So I'm just going to brush that away. Maybe I'll go all the way down the line just to make sure there's no remnants of it hiding anywhere that I don't want it to show. So you can see what's happening is I'm on that white layer, and I can make a little bit of a cleanup there. And the same thing happens up here. So again, this isn't the most elegant way to do this. It's an option. But at this point, so what we're left with is our card that's ready to be printed. It's on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and our artwork's ready to go. So I'm ready to print this. Let's do that. So for printing, I'm going to go over to the wrench icon at the top, and we want to share this. I'm going to select PNG again, and it's going to create the PNG version of that file. Again, I use PNG because it has no compression. I'm not going to lose any quality between saving it and printing it. If you were to do that as a JPEG or a GIF file, you're going to lose quality for sure. So now I'm going to select print from the menu that comes up. So there's some options here. It knows my printer already, which it's found through Bluetooth. I want one copy. It's set up as a letter. I have the option to make it black and white. I'm not going to toggle that, so right now it will print in color, and it's set as color and letter. If you go under letter, you could select, these are the options from my printer, but I'm going to leave that as is, and I'm going to select print. And now it says it's printing to my Epson printer. So now we have the printed page. This is on 8.5 by 11, and it came out at the correct size. And now I have these guides over here that are very light, but I can still use them to cut out my card. So at this point, what I want to do is take a cutting mat like this, and I like to use a metal ruler. I like to flip it over because the cork can create a little bit of a gap between the bottom of the page and the ruler guide. So I like to flip it over and just use an X-Acto knife to trim it up. At this point, I would put this on my paper folder from Martha Stewart, but if you don't have one of those, then what you can do is flip it over, and you want to make sure you have the middle. So I'm just going to take a pencil and mark the middle. So it is here. I'm going to make sure that I flip it over and mark that part. Now, when you have this printed on cardstock, you can flip it over like this, line the ruler up with the middle, take your knife and flip it over to the back, and just score the page a couple times. I'm just using printer paper, so I don't want to do this too hard, but you should be able to do at least 2 or 3 firm presses with your knife if it was cardstock. And then you can fold it over like this, and it has a natural fold already. When you begin to fold it, it will press into place on that plate or on that line that you creased it at. And there I have my card. This turned out great. I hope you all enjoyed this video showing one way that you can print a card completely from Procreate from start to finish. It's not the ideal way. It is nicer to use another program to create the outlines so that you have more control, but it does give you an option. If you don't have something like Adobe Illustrator, you can still achieve the same result in a roundabout way. I'm sure there's other ways you can do this as well. I just wanted to show you an option or one way that could be achieved. If you are interested in printable cards, I do have some art in my Etsy shop. I have some finalized cards as well as just some with line work that you can color in yourself if that's something you'd prefer. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you're notified the next time I post a video. Thanks so much for watching.